Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Caregiving and Entrepreneurship Reimagined podcast. I am your host, Melissa Miller. And if you're new to the podcast, I am a former certified nursing assistant turned full time stay at home mother and spousal caregiver almost 5 years ago following my husband's unexpected diagnosis of epilepsy. And I am passionate about sharing my experiences as a personal and professional caregiver to help you find your way in your caregiving journey. Because I get it, it's so overwhelming, there's so much to learn. But, with being entrepreneurs, right? It's same thing. There's a bunch of skill sets that we had to learn, and they're very similar to caregiving. So it doesn't have to be a choice. You can do both. So, with that being said, I am so excited to have Adam Parry on my podcast today. He is also a fellow entrepreneur, and we have both had the same struggle with like prioritizing self-care and burnout and just learning to find our own voice in our entrepreneurial journey. So I really am excited that he agreed to be on the podcast. So Adam, thank you for being on the podcast today.
Oh, thank you, Melissa. It's an honor to be here with you. So I'm really excited.
All right. Well, obviously you and I have gotten to know each other a little bit already, but obviously my listeners are not acquainted with you and who you are. So can you give a little shout out about what you do and what brought you to entrepreneurship?
Oh, what brought me to entrepreneurship is honestly coaching. I came across the life coach a number of years ago during a high stressful time in my work life. I was feeling overwhelmed and stressed and had no release for it, no way to overcome that. And I came across a life coach that helped me find new ways to look at it, to see my life and actually take back the power in my own life to help me change my journey, change my destiny, and really become the person I want to be, create the life I want to create, and do that through my own empowerment. And that's what life coaching brought to me. So now I want to share that with others because I have found some real tricks and tools that are a blessing. And some of it in general is just to have a life coach, someone you can talk to, someone that will be there, non-judgmental, someone that will listen and help you along your own journey.
I love that. And it's interesting because, when we think about having accountability, having support, a lot of the times we think of mental health in terms of like a counselor or therapist. And I personally had those kind of struggles in my early 20s. And I'm thankful I was able to get the help I needed to deal with some other stresses and anxieties I had in my life at the time. But I will say, though, too, that having a coach somewhat is another form of self-care. And because we need those pep talks, just like you need someone to be non-judgmental when you are struggling with your mental health in terms of depression, anxiety, or maybe some other sort of mental disorder. You need that non-judgmental place to thrive and work through it. Well, same thing when you have other ambitions in your life. Same thing. You need that. You want that accountability, but you also need that safe place to just flop and make mistakes and feel empowered that look and to have those pep talks of look, you can do this. And I personally, I've had the same business coach for 4 years and I love her. And having that accountability and even just being around other people besides obviously it depends on your situation whether you want to have coaching one-on-one or whether you like a smaller pod or maybe a bigger group. Everyone's different. I've experienced both. I've done a 3 month program with just 6 people and one coach, and then I've done, been part of a bigger community for obviously I've said like I said for 4 years. But both are good. Both are good. But either way, you need what I find is just so amazing is that not only do you need the pep talks, but also just being around other people that have been through similar things just helps you learn more. You learn from not only doing, but you also learn from other people's experiences. Because again, like you say, tips and hacks to navigate your journey. And obviously, with me seeing from my standpoint with obviously targeting caregiving, not so much life coaching, but caregiving, I've had the unique lens of it's so different caring for a loved one because you're more close to the situation versus being a professional caregiver where you work in a hospital or a long-term care facility like what I've done. And not to say that I don't really care and get invested in the patients that I've had and taken care of, had the privilege of taking care of. But at the end of the day, I still go home to my own family. I still care, but it's way different when it's in the thick of it caring for a family member 24/7. So I think just making sure, guys, that wherever you're at in the spectrum the of the stage of caregiving that you're at, or the stage of going after your entrepreneurial goals that you're at, make sure that you have somebody in your corner. Having someone in your corner is so important because you realistically, you can't do it alone. I know they say, "Oh, you can do this," no problem, but you need that accountability and you need that help. So, Adam, what was one way that, or I should say, not maybe not one way, but how did you come across your own mentor then? What was that process like? Did you just go looking for someone, or were you blessed to cross paths with someone kind of more coincidental, accidental, and that's what propelled you on your journey?
For me, it was more accidental. One, because I didn't recognize or see the stresses that I was in. I didn't see my circumstances even as a problem. I just kind of either powered through it or said, this is what life is supposed to be like. I didn't see the alternate side. It's kind of like you said a little bit earlier. It's the idea that when I saw what others have been able to do, it gave me the power to, or even the creativity or the thought processes that, hey, I can break out of this. I don't have to keep on the day to day, 9 to 5, go to work, dragging my feet, not making eye contact with people or trying to put on that positive fake face to get through the day. Those were the things that just wore on me on day to day. And so what I saw was somebody else's example and somebody teaching me, and I did. I followed upon it by accident. Found a podcast. The podcast was actually tailored to women, and I kind of just broke through and listened to it. I don't know why it was, but it just did. And I rather enjoyed it. And I could relate with not necessarily women, but the things they were teaching that, our circumstances are not um, don't really control our lives. Our own thoughts and our feelings is what controls our actions and eventually our results. And
Absolutely. I love
that's what I
that.
was learning.
Yeah.
Looking at
I
life with a neutral perspective, when something happens, we quickly judge and call it a good or bad circumstance. That's our
mm,
thought. But if we can look at it as neutral, oh my goodness, it gives you so much more power to move forward.
I love that. And my shout out to Faith Mara. That's who my business coach is. Love you, Mariah. I love you, Faith. But anyway, I really love what I've learned from her as well. That like she says, she one thing she talks about a lot is decisions are not life sentences. And even when you try something, and with caregiving or entrepreneurship, you have to try a lot, because lots of times when the problem with on the terms of in the terms of caregiving, one person will maybe do very well on one treatment, but then you can have another person that does the exact same protocol and it will be a disaster for them. So it's, you can't really box it into where it's a one size fits all approach, and that's the same thing with business and entrepreneurship. We
Yeah.
all know we need to do certain things that are similar. We need to network, we need to work on our messaging, we need to create products, we need to create, a way for people to invest and connect with us in our work. There's so many different things that are similar, but at the same time, we have our unique personality. So my business coaching practice is going to look so different than what Adam's is, and that's fine. And the way you approach your caregiving journey is going to be way different too. I personally have a binder that I like to use to manage my husband's medical information by hand, but some of you who are even more tech savvy than me will prefer to go the all digital route, and that's fine. So finding out what works for you is important, but then that also comes into when you're looking for your help, in terms of a mentor, someone to be in your corner. Think about that too. Why do you connect with that person? And a lot of it I feel is personality. The reason I personally love my business coach is because I remember very profoundly, the first few lives I saw of her. She just showed up in a messy bun in her workout clothes, and she was just showing up. She's like, okay, so what? I just worked out. I don't have any makeup on. I'm not wearing the most professional attire or whatever. But she was just so passionate about sharing what she had to say. And I'm like, that's me. I don't wear makeup. I don't wear fancy clothes. I'm more about just showing up for my people, because realistically with my life, yes, I'm a business up and coming business owner and coach, but at the same time too, I'm a wife, I'm a mother. And so and with my line of work, I in my career, my former career, I never wore makeup either. So it's just not me. And when you work in healthcare, you're in scrubs and and you're around yuck. Just leave it to be bluntly honest. And so, the people I'm calling in to me, I don't care what you wear. I don't care how you show up. I just want you to show up for your loved one to the best of your ability, and I want to help you through that and creating systems that actually work for you. We modify it to fit your caregiving journey. And same thing for your business. You figure out how to adjust your hours or your needs to be able to still scale, grow your business, still keep going after your passions because that is part of you and that will be with you long after your loved one may pass. Okay. So it's still important to still pursue who you are and stay connected with who you are, regardless of whatever life will throw at you. Because with caregiving, we care for our loved ones, but at the same time, like when I cared for my grandmother, when I cared for my father, there was a timeline. They eventually were going to succumb to their chronic health issues because of age and also just there's no cure. So there's a timeline. So being sure that I still re, realize that in my own journey and still continue to pour my heart into my business, continue to do things I love, like volunteer at my church and knit, read books, do things that I love, hobbies that I'm passionate about and love are important because that helps you cope, that helps you heal, but also it's still who you are long after the caregiving hat is put back on the peg if you come to the end of your journey. But in some ways, I'm still also a caregiver for my husband, so the caregiving hat has not totally gone away from me either. So, and I'm still a mother. So, I think just really honing in um, on who you are as a person, what makes you tick, what makes Adam tick, and also making sure that you have people around you that have that same personality that are into what makes you tick, what makes you unique, what makes you special.
I love the fact that you recognize the many hats you're wearing, the different aspects of who you are, because I think that's what one makes you human. And then you're not just pigeonholed in that I'm a caregiver for my husband, and that becomes the main focus and the overwhelm. Because as soon as you recognize I'm also a mom and I'm taking care of myself here and these type of things, that's how you can kind of like you do with your money. You diversify your money, you diversify your identity so that you can remain stable and strong and be there for the others. I love.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And so, okay, so if we're focusing on making sure that we have someone, we've established like it's important to have someone in your corner. It's important to make sure that you are staying connected with who you are. What would you say is another thing that we should make sure that when we're building up ourselves and making sure that we're not pigeonholing ourselves, we're aware of all the many hats that we have because I know everyone who's listening to this episode has more than one hat that they're wearing, whether it's parenting, whether it's maybe multiple jobs in their job that they have, or dreams or goals. What would you say would be a third tip that we can give our listeners?
Um, Third tip, I'm going to kind of maybe blend some of these in together because I think one of the tips is taking inventory of our own lives, recognizing that it goes with the identity, but when we take inventory of our own lives and recognize that there are four aspects of our life, most likely speaking, we're involved with, I like to go with work. We have to work or make some sort of money, our entrepreneurship. We've got to be involved in family. We've got that taking up our time. And then we've also got sometimes a church or some type of spirituality that we're
Yes,
involved in. And then there's ourselves. And as we focus on these, a lot of times we forget about ourselves. And that it's this love of self, which may be kind of my third point, and recognize that you are important to the mix of things. You do need to rejuvenate your battery, whatever it might be. You mentioned reading earlier. and or for me it was sneaking away to get a massage from work. That was kind of one of my key points in learning self-love, because everyone experiences self-love differently.
Mm.
And a lot of times we'll answer that of, you just need to love yourself, but we haven't quite taken a moment and see taking that inventory of what self-love to me really is. Because it's going to be different, like a little bit of what you mentioned earlier, than what it is for you, what it is for me. One of my breakthrough moments was sneaking away from work, not telling anyone I was doing this, and going and getting a massage in the middle of the day. That felt so exhilarating and exciting, and I came away from it just kind of empowered and rejuvenated, uh, and then saw that I was showing a little bit of care for myself. Another way that self-love strengthens me or helps me in this important point tips is if I make a mistake, is having grace and compassion for myself to learn from it, not beat myself up for it. And these type of things is my way of showing self-love for myself. And as I'm implementing those in my own life, then I can also implement it in others. Everything from the guy that cuts you off and trying to have love and compassion for him, that maybe make up a story that says he's just stressed and overwhelmed. By all means, cut me off so that you can get where you need to go. These type of things, that's the power I have in my own head and my own life to keep the stresses down and keep the power within my own grasp and not giving up to someone else.
Absolutely. And I do think that is so important. It's like what you talked about with the 4 points. I love that. We do often, both as entrepreneurs, both as caregivers, we often make the mistake, guys, of putting ourselves last, which we're going to spin that on its head, and it always needs to be us first. And it's not selfish, but realistically, guys, if we're not taking care of our mind, if we're not taking care of our body, if we're not taking care of our souls, we're not going to really be able to meet the needs of our clients, of our kids, of our partners or spouses, of our loved ones who are sick, be that spouse, parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle, sister, I don't care. And more importantly, our clients, they need the best from us. And if we can't give our best from them, or if we can't give the best of ourselves to them, we're not going to be the best coach and mentor for them. And we're certainly not going to be a good parent, a good spouse, a good caregiver. It all stems from us daily taking time for ourselves. And self love, I like that term, self love. So, self love does not have to take hours. There's such a stigma like, oh, self care is selfish, or it has to take lots of times. Break it up throughout the day. Maybe you spend 15 minutes in the morning doing some journaling or a prayer time or a devotional. Maybe in the afternoon you go for a walk or a run to get outside and to nourish your physical body, and also exercise is good for your mental health as well. Maybe you have the rule like, okay, if you get to a point where you're working and you're so stuck on how to get something done, you keep trying, it's not making sense, or it's just not coming out how you want, maybe you take a time out for 15 minutes and you knit on a project or crochet on a project for 15 minutes, or you read one chapter of a book, or you listen to a silly music video on YouTube. I don't care. Just do something. Have those boundaries, because I think what something else, I can't remember who it was, but I really like an article or I read a while back where the author, she was talking about how she was from the standpoint where she likes to plan out her day and week with putting in her self-care time first,
Mhm.
non-negotiable, so it's on there, it's blocked out, and then comes all like the school schedule for her kids, activities at church, and then like her work schedule, clientele's like meetings, trainings, the whole shenanigan. So, but everyone's different. Maybe for you that might be too much, but so maybe for you it's just intentionally, just maybe for starters, just choosing one or two ways that you can put 15, what I call 15-minute breaks in throughout the day. 15 minutes to do a workout. I personally do 15 to 20-minute workouts because that's all my body can take with my chronic health. I can't do hard cardio. It will exacerbate my IBS, it'll exacerbate my thyroid, but that's what I can do. But that's for me. So maybe for you it is 15 minutes of hard cardio or punching a bag, a boxing bag or something. 15 minutes to refill your water and get a snack. Maybe 15 minutes even to just stand up because we've been sitting at our desk for too long and staring at the screen. Maybe it's 15 minutes to go outside. Maybe not necessarily you go for a walk, but just to sit outside and breathe,
Yes.
to just
And
have a moment to yourself. Yes.
taking those moments for yourself, scheduling them in, that's one of the things I definitely teach, is the scheduling it ahead of time so that you know you've got something to look forward to. You know you've even see that you've given yourself priority a little bit.
Hmm.
And the one mental thing we've got to really work on is classifying self-help or self-prioritizing as selfish, or the word selfish is negative. Because what
Mhm.
is wrong with really being selfish when it is to benefit someone else? It when it is to make myself stronger so that I can lift somebody else. It
Mm.
it it isn't negative selfish. It is selfish because I'm loving someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Self-care out of self-love, or love for
Yes.
this, self-care out of love. When you take care of yourself and prioritize yourself, y'all, and love yourself, you're going to be able to love others better. You're going to be so much more present as a wife, as a mother, as a parent, as a aunt, uncle, whatever, and then more importantly, as an entrepreneur, whatever your title is, be it a coach, mentor, like what Adam and I have chosen for ourselves, or something different. It's all going to stem from a better place of service, because think about it, when you're a caregiver, it's an act of service. Yes, when I practiced professionally as a CNA, I was paid for it. But what better career to be in than to get paid for doing something that you love? I've always been fascinated with how the body works, and what better way for me to have a career than to you know, learn how them learning how to manage the body, to care for the body, so we can feel good and we can enjoy life. And personally, same thing. It's like I want my loved ones to feel good, the ones that I've had the privilege of caring for. And, as a coach, as a mentor, I am privileged to help you through your journey of balancing business and caregiving, and just to know that caregiving, while it may seem foreign to you guys, y'all, when I started entrepreneurship was foreign to me. I have no background in entrepreneurship and business, so it's been a learning curve for me. So give yourself grace if you're having a rough season of learning all these skills, because it is a lot. Okay, we're not going to sugarcoat it. It is a lot, but just it all starts with you taking care of yourself first. So it's very important.
Recognizing that you're enough, that it's okay to attempt it, fail it, you learn from it, and move on. Failure,
Absolutely.
failure is not a negative thing. A lot of times, if we see it as a learning process and a way to move forward, we
Hmm.
can grow from that so much better than dwelling on a negative aspect of it.
Oh yeah, it just drains
So
your energy. It
self-care.
drains your energy. You don't because you're not more productive. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
not
get
at
you get
all.
analysis paralysis. One thing that my coach tells me, she's said this for years, but I still stand by it. It's like, when we're in that analysis paralysis mode, we need to remember that, you know what? Okay, I'm going to call my shot and I'm going to go for it. And if I fail, I'm going to get the lesson or information that I need. And if I succeed, then I know it works and I'm going to run with it. I'm either going to get the lesson or I'm going to get the info I need. So whatever way, so I love that. Failure is not a bad thing. I want to fail epically. That's another tagline. Fail
Fail
epically.
ethically.
Fail epically. Okay, guys, I want you to fail epically, because the more you do, the better you get. Because I know, from me personally, I don't know about any of you, but I'm definitely a hands-on learner, excuse me. It was very true for me in my healthcare career, guys. I went to school for 3 months to become a CNA and learned a lot. Don't get me wrong, I did pay attention in class and everything else, but I have to tell you, everything clicked so much more for me, guys, when I did my clinicals than the 3 months I was in the classroom, because I got to see actual real life scenarios and understand the protocols and procedures so much more in a real clinical setting than I ever would on a dummy in a classroom, or another classmate who was obviously healthy and didn't have X, Y, and Z symptoms, so I couldn't really triage it and treat it. You know what I mean? So get in there. Don't be afraid. If you fail, it's not the end. It's not the end all be all. Okay. You're just learning. You're going to get better. It'll get better. Honestly, I would say I didn't feel comfortable in my healthcare career until about I practiced for 15 years. I'd say about year 7 or 8. I finally because I had to work with a couple different companies and but the company I worked with when I hit year 7 or 8, I feel like that was finally my breakthrough, where I finally feel like I got it because I had good coworkers that were willing to give me more training and give me the time of day and realize that I wasn't trying to slough off. I just needed some more coaching and help, if you will, or mentoring, if you will. And that's where I really learned a lot. And then and then the last two companies I worked for, I had the privilege of it paid off. Got to train other I was put in a more senior position where I got to train other employees when they came in and or when we partnered with colleges with who were doing CNA recruitment programs, I got to train um, up and coming aides who were getting their clinicals. So it took me a while, but the hard work and being resilient and not giving up paid off because then I got to tenfold that of giving the up and coming aides the chance or the new employees that safe, positive environment that I didn't get when I started. So you never, and same thing with entrepreneurship. I definitely am in a different space now than I was 4 years ago. Do I have it all figured out? Am I totally where I want to be yet? No, no. But I am not sorry for what I've tried because I've done a lot of work, you know, in terms of learning tech, in terms of how I want to share my story, in terms of where I want to go with my business. I'm excited for next year. I'm finally figuring things out. And is it maybe frustrating when people don't stick around and don't believe in you and they leave? Of course, but maybe but then at the same time, I see it as like, I want people that are going to pay me. I want people that really want my work and trust me. And if they don't trust me, if they don't gel with my personality, maybe it's more a personality thing. That's fine. I want you to find who will work for you and make room for the people that do want to work with me and are my people. And that's fine. And it's sometimes there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through. And same thing with self-care. Maybe you try something, you take away a couple tidbits from this call, this episode, and you try them and you're like, Adam, Melissa, that didn't work. That's okay. We still want you to keep trying and be resilient and relentless in finding what does work for you. And it might
Yeah,
take a few times. Very rarely do you get it on the first try, guys. Very rarely.
very rarely you get on the first try, and it's seeing that failure of saying making a mistake or not stumbling, whatever, as just opportunity to keep going. The only true failure is when we give up and stop.
Mm,
And yes, sometimes a mistake or a failure or something doesn't go right may keep us from that. And that's where we get some help. That's where we seek out assistance. That's where we dig within deep of ourselves to find that power to keep going and striving and recognizing it as our passion, because giving up is really the only true failure in life
right.
and
Yeah.
in entrepreneurship and caregiving and whatever it is.
Absolutely. And I think that's why with the podcast, honestly, it's interesting. I've been doing a lot of batching for this month and next when we're recording this. We're in November right now at the time of this recording. But it's interesting. There's so many different even takes just with podcasting and stuff like, oh, you need to edit, you need a script, you need a not script, fancy music. Sorry, your girl's plain Jane. I'm not going there. So what you see is what you get. And I think I like that style. I've just really loved. That's why I like that's why the episodes are what they are. There's no fancy music. It's just me coming on, your girl showing up for you. And either I share from my heart by myself or I bring on a badass, amazing entrepreneur to share their tidbits and their passion and their story of how and I am definitely picky, guys, about who I let on. Don't get me wrong, because I want what I bring to the table and what my guests bring to the table to be something that you can draw from to help you in your self-care journey, your caregiving journey, your business journey, right? But at the same time, I don't want it to be, again, like what we've talked about, so pigeonholed, so perfect, where it feels like it has to be just contained in a box. And there's no way that it's not that way at all. It's not my way or the highway. There's more than one way to do it. So that's why these episodes are what they are. They're just me showing up. We have a casual chat. I want I'm very blunt and honest with my guests. I just want them to show up as they are, wearing whatever they want. Which don't you, y'all? Don't you just love Adam's hat? It's amazing. Like, just to show up, like you would for a coffee chat. This is not business coaching where it has to be professional looking. This is business and caregiving coaching where it's from the heart. It's meant to encourage you and inspire you and just give you some hope. That's what I hope to bring to the table with this podcast. So Adam, we've talked a lot about some really good stuff. I really have enjoyed having you on the podcast. Where can we find more of you if people are interested in working with you or learning more about your work?
Right now, best place to find me is on Instagram or Facebook. That's under Adam Parry Coaching, spelled Parry, both on Instagram and Facebook, I believe. And I'll have a website up soon where others can reach me. I do have, hopefully, I've got a Calendly link where you can just schedule a free appointment of consultation where we can talk about whether it can help you out. If you like that weekly coaching, I'm offering a program currently to help people get through the holidays, to help
Ooh, yeah.
reduce stress, deal with difficult people at work, uh, strengthen your relationships with your family, and these type of things. This program is going to help people get through the holidays and show up the way they want to and enjoy them and be more loving to yourselves and others during this time.
I love that. And I gotta say, guys, as I know this time of year is also I'm very much aware that this time of year can be very triggering for caregivers because we have the risk of COVID and flu season ramping up. So the risk of infection is a concern. With the bad weather, if your loved one still drives, worrying about their safety, or even just getting in. I know with my grandmother, the last couple of years of her life during the winter, we finally gave in and got her a motorized chair to go up and down to get her in and out of her house because it was a 1900 house. So there was her house was actually, it looked like it was on the second story, but it really wasn't. But there were stairs to get up there, and with her being 90 plus years old, it just wasn't safe for her to do that because it gets very slippery and cold where we live in the Pacific Northwest, and so it can be stressful with all that. And lots of times too, this can also be hard too in terms of grief. I know for me, I've had to personally work through that some with my both of my parents being gone. I'm almost 40 and I have both my parents are gone. And there's a lot of traditions we did when I was growing up. And so obviously I'm continuing them and evolving my own with my daughter, but it's still hard. So whether it's grief, whether it's just the weather, whether it's the ongoing COVID and flu season, which I know is terrible and just can really wreak havoc with those who don't have a good immune system, and those who are caring for people. It's stressful, and then just the holiday stress of like Adam says, maybe there's also the added stress on top of all of that. You're dealing with family members where you don't have a healthy relationship with them, or there's some hurt, there's some trauma, there's some pain. I just want you to know that you're not alone. And I really hope that you take away from this episode that you really do focus on yourself. If nothing else, as we're going into the really stressful time as we wrap up this year and we look towards the new, I just really want you just taking a moment for yourself every day and making that a goal for the year, just to really prioritize, even if it's just 15-minute breaks here and there as a start, or even just one time a day, two times a day. I don't care. Focus on you. Don't skip your wellness visits. Listen to what your body's telling you. If you need something, please get the help you need, whether it is being able to just vent to a counselor or a therapist, or talking with your leader of faith, or taking time to start prioritizing maybe some changes in your diet or exercise or whatever. I mean, I'm obviously not a doctor. I can't prescribe anything, but just listen to what you need and then ask and then get the help if you need, whether it's scheduling that appointment, whether it's scheduling that session with a counselor, a therapist, your leader of faith, your primary physician. Maybe it's
Life coach,
life coach, business or caregiver coach, where I'm at,
caregiver coach.
whatever you need to do, please just do it because it is going to do you or your family or your clientele not any good if you don't take care of yourself. Okay. So just really just take care of yourself. So Adam, before we close out, what is what I've had a lot of fun with this question with my guests. So to end the call, the question I have is you can spin it any way you want, but what is something that either we have talked about today or something that has happened in your own journey that just really stuck with you that you would like to leave with our listeners as a little kind of pep talk slash encouragement piece before we close out?
Yes. Well, my little bit of inspiration, and we've kind of hit on it a number of times, is that reminder that you are enough. I found a t-shirt or a sweat hoodie that I bought because it says it across the front, and I want people to remember that you are enough. But we also need to remember ourselves that I am enough. Mistakes are going to happen. I'm human. I can only do the best I can. Don't beat yourself up. That doesn't change your worth. It's you're amazing for who you are. And that means the awesome things you do and the mistakes you make. And so learning and having that just kind of burned inside of ourselves, if we can learn that I am enough and I'm doing the best I can, and so are others, we're going to see life a whole lot different and a lot more better, a lot brighter and more beautiful. And that's what I want people to catch on to. And it's part of that identity we talked a little bit about, many hats of those, but it is that you are enough. And you can tell by your podcast, you're showing up the way you want to. I love it. And it's you people get what you get with you. Honesty, vulnerability, love, and compassion. And that's part of caregiving. That's what we give to others. And that's what we want to learn to give to ourselves.
Mhm. Awesome. Well, Adam, thank you so much for agreeing to be
Thank
this
you. I
week's
love
guest
it.
on the Caregiving and Entrepreneurship Reimagined podcast. Y'all be sure, wherever you're watching this, on my blog, YouTube channel, Apple or Spotify, be sure to check out Adam's information below, wherever you're watching this, and connect with him if you have questions or maybe share a takeaway with him. Show my guy some love, okay? Show him some love. And as always, if you have other questions or ideas for the podcast, you can email me at melissamiller@towersupermom.com. And be sure to subscribe on my website to my newsletter at www.caregivingentrepreneurshipreimagine.com to get weekly mini workshop trainings I'm exclusively only offering to my email list, one-on-one access from me, updates about the podcast and my coaching programs, and also just to connect if you have further questions or struggles in your caregiving and entrepreneurship journey. So thanks for tuning in to this week's episode, and I will see you next week on the Caregiving and Entrepreneurship Reimagined podcast. Take care, guys.